Hello, everybody. Slightly Slanted Sleuth. And I'm waiting for a Frater to join, but hang on, I'm going to get him again. Bear with me. Sorry. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. Damn it. What happened? Uh-oh. Okay. Okay. So, I don't know. Tell me what you guys think about this picture. This one. Let me find another one here. How about this one? Woohoo! So everybody, think I've turned into Runk. Okay, so here's Frater. Unmute yourself, bud. Hang on, I'm going to promote you. Can say something once.
Hello.
There you go. You're here.
All right. So how's it going, Steve?
Pretty good. Can everybody hear him? Pretty good. Can everybody hear him? Talk once, Frater.
Buongiorno.
Talk once. Oh, what the heck? Okay, hang on. Nobody's hearing.
Let me go into my settings here.
There we go. Now I can hear you. Sound is good.
Okay. Let me just.
Yep, we can hear you now, man. So yeah, I'm joined with Frater. How do you pronounce your name, brother? I'm sorry.
Frater Deus est Veritas.
Est Veritas.
Yeah, which means God is truth.
God is.
Or God is the truth. I mean, in Latin, the word "the" is basically non-existent. So I don't actually know the history of the word "the," so I'm not going to pretend that I do. But yeah, so that's my my magical motto. So
right in the word Deus is the word day, right?
Yep, that's it. Yeah, the word day is derived from Deus, as the word hour is derived from Horus. I think I'm not sure what the word. I think it's Horus in Spanish. So yeah, I do have a couple of videos on YouTube, and I was supposed to be uploading content much more regularly, but I'll be honest, it's not that I've been lazy. Well, actually, no, it is that to some degree I've been lazy, but I just haven't got round to doing something consistently yet. And I do have a past on YouTube and an old channel where I was like, this was years ago, where I was like investigating weird ass conspiracy theories and stuff.
Yep.
And a couple of people that I knew in the community ended up like dead. It was really bizarre. So because of all that, I don't really want to show my face on camera. I'd just rather share audio. And plus, really, it's not really about me. It's about the content and getting this knowledge out, disseminating it to people who are searching for truth, because it's important. The truth is, even though the truth is the only thing that's extant in the well, beyond like a single lifetime, it seems to wax and wane on the earth how much is known about the mystical and true nature of reality. So we go back to ancient Egypt. The truth wasn't something ambiguous. It was celebrated in that culture. And then it got lost for however many centuries, and it came back. I'd say that the truth, you could argue it came back during the period of the Gnostics, and then all the Gnostics were destroyed by the Roman Catholic Church. And then we go into a period which is the Dark Ages, really. And then we have the Renaissance as well, which is a period of history where the truth comes back. And then we're in a time where it's gone again, essentially. So it's important to disseminate this knowledge. And I wouldn't call it information, I'd call it knowledge, because it allows someone to interpret the scriptures accurately as they were meant to be interpreted by those who wrote them.
And what is your opinion on the scriptures? How should we first look at them, and then how should we take them in as a literal, or you tell me?
Well, there are 4 levels of exegesis that you'll learn about in kind of Christian schools of thought. So the first level is the literal level, and that is really a story where essentially you have to avoid interpreting things as literal, because what the literal layer does, there's a guy called Bill Donahue. I don't know if anyone knows him. But
Oh yeah, I'm sub to him. Hang on a second, I'm gonna turn on the light. Keep talking.
So Bill Donahue, there's 2 Bill Donahues. There's the Bill Donahue that is a Christian guy that debates atheists. Not him, the mystical guy. Sounds like he's from New York or New Jersey. And he said that the whole point of the scriptures and the literal layer of them is to deceive those operating from their ego, so they can't understand the true knowledge that is being communicated. So, for example, I'll give you an example here.
Let me say something. It's like that. What is that scripture in the Bible where the woman's at the well, and she talks about having her, or they say that she has 5 husbands that are keeping her from her true husband? That's pretty much what that allegorical tale is saying, right? Letting your 5 senses getting in the way of our true marriage with God.
Yeah, well, polygamy was kind of rife until the church introduced, I can't remember when they did it, but a part of marriage as we know now was introduced by the church as it was actually a way of protecting women. And I mean, it's been very successful. But, well, I mean, I live in California, and the divorce rate is something like 60%, which is kind of shocking, really. But yeah, like I said, the literal level, essentially you have to ignore it if you really want to understand. It's just like a story that basically it gives you the illusion of this chronological story. And at the same time as this story is being told, the very same principles are being repeated over and over and over again constantly throughout all the scriptures, where the logos and the nature of reality and the idea of union with God are constantly being repeated. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. It's the repeating. It's like everything else, repeating fractal. Like if I was to view our live stream on YouTube right now, how it would be reiterated. Have I showed you that yet?
Oh, what? That's a hysteresis loop. So that's that occurs when you stand in between two mirrors of an equal size.
Oh, really?
And what that is, that's like an electronic hysteresis loop. So that basically bounces the signal ad infinitum constantly, where it creates this basically, you'll see a screen within a screen within a screen, etc., etc.
Yep.
Yeah, they call that a hysteresis loop in physics and engineering. It does have a lot of applications in kind of like more advanced systems engineering. So yeah, just on that side note, I'm a electrical engineer, so that's what I do outside of my current whole metaphysical life, if I can put it like that.
Okay.
So going back, let's get back to I'm just searching for it here. So you have an allegorical interpretation of the Bible. So this is it. So you have first of all the literal interpretation, which is just the story as it's told chronologically. Then next you have the moral or tropological interpretation, and that's where you look at the stories and you try and figure out the morals of the story and what the story's trying to communicate about a better way to live your life. So if you go and watch, for example, Jordan Peterson's series where he does exegeses of Genesis and Exodus, I think he did, he's dealing on the tropological level of interpretation, and that is still very valuable and useful. Right. He kind of goes a bit deeper as well, Jordan Peterson, because he does reference the logos, but he doesn't understand that the logos is an actual thing that generates reality.
The logos is essentially the communication from God, right?
It's the product of God. So God is essentially an infinite spirit, but also a personal spirit. So the logos is the conduit between God and physical creation, essentially. That's one way. That's one adjective you could use to describe it. Mm-hmm. So we also have the allegorical sense of the scriptures, which is where you're looking for, well, it's kind of in the word, you analyze it as allegories and compare what's being discussed with things that happen in our own lives. And then lastly, what we're interested in today is called the anagogical level of interpretation. And that's the very deep, hidden, mystical side of the scriptures that delineate the true nature of reality.
The angelical aspect of it, you mean? Is that what you were just saying?
Sorry, say that again.
What aspect what did you name it?
It's called the anagogical level of interpretation.
Anagogical?
Yeah, anagogical. And that's basically the deepest level of it. And like I said, that communicates the true mystical nature of reality and the purpose of our lives, etc., etc. That's the really deep stuff, and that's really what we're concerned with today. So
And you
so
were
in
saying
order
something.
to do that, I haven't actually got scripture. Well, I've got a few books here in front of me. I've got the Nag Hammadi scriptures, Pistis Sophia. I have the Bible. I have a book called The Mystical Kabbalah by Dion Fortune, and I have a book by a ceremonial magician called Aaron Leach called The Angelical Language, Volume 1. It's the complete history and mythos of the tongue of angels based on the journals of Dr. John Dee and Sir Edward Kelly. So I think we should look through that book first. I mean, we're probably not going to have time to go through all of these books here. So, I mean,
Right.
I'll just... So, yeah, I wanted to discuss this book with you, Steve, because let's just talk about the author quickly. So Aaron Leach is a ceremonial magician. He has his own magic shop online called Doc Solomon's, where he sells tools used for magicians practicing Solomonic magic. Oh shit!
Just in a quick I don't know, tie-in. Earlier you were, or yesterday or the day before, you were talking about the Golden Dawn ritual in the...
Yeah, so the Golden Dawn is essentially a compilation of Greco-Egyptian magic, Kabbalah, and Enochian magic. So the system of Enochian magic was developed by Dr. John Dee in the 16th century. Sorry, in the 1600s, I think. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. So John Dee was on the court of Queen Elizabeth I, and he even acted as the Queen's astrologer. And he did get in trouble on a few occasions because some people believed that he was trying to manipulate the Queen for his own agenda. But being the great magician he was able to get himself out of trouble. So John Dee advertised for a scryer, and that's when he met Sir Edward Kelly, and they did magical operations where they evoked many angels. And Dee was meticulous in recording notes of his scrying sessions with the angels. And we're going to read some of the notes that are from Dee's journals. So we can analyze the speech of the angels, but not the speech as in the linguistics of the Enochian language, which is the language of angels, but the content of their speech. What is it that they're talking about? What are they communicating? What do they want, etc., etc.? And this subject I find absolutely fascinating because it verifies the truth, essentially. It also would verify the existence of angels, and it also proves that the Enochian system is a true system of magic, and you know, it is efficacious. If you want to change your reality using angels, you can, basically. But the thing is, though, if you ask an angel, say, hey, I want like $10,000 or $1 million, an angel's going to be like, no, because you don't know how to handle $1 million. If you're working, say, from the Lemegaton and the Goetia, and you want to evoke a demon to amass a large sum of money, demon's not going to say no to anything. It will give you your desires, but when you get more than you wished for, the demon's not going to help you. Basically, it's like, you asked for this, you got to deal with it. So
Now,
a demon...
you absolutely believe in that there's demons and angels, and what is the difference between a demon and an angel then?
Right. So I would call, when you look at if you look at the class of spirits in the Goetia, which is one of the books of the Lemegeton. So the key of Solomon it's called the Key of Solomon because it gives you the keys to access the spirit world formally as a magician. Okay. So once you've used the keys to open the door, you create a world in between the worlds in your ritual space and a magic circle. And once you open the door, you can call on spirits to perform tasks for you. And it's something that like we couldn't do ourselves. So magic always manifests via a coincidence. And a spirit can cause a coincidence to occur in the chain of cause and effect that leads you to receiving whatever your intention was, what you cast for. And it might not be something physical. You might evoke a spirit or invoke a planetary power to help you become more disciplined, to help you receive more wisdom. It's not all about gaining material wealth, you know, and in fact that's one of the dangers of magic versus mysticism, is that you can get caught up in the material world. Your ego can shoot up.
Does magic fit into the ritual side then of the ascension formula? And
well, yeah, essentially. So mysticism and magic are essentially one in the same thing. The only difference is that in mysticism, you ascend up the middle pillar to Tifereth to become enlightened. You just go straight up the middle pillar in mysticism.
Because there's three ways, right? There's
right,
three gunas,
and in magic, you take what's called the lightning flash path, where you'll ascend through each Sephiroth in order. So you go from Malkuth, then you go to Yesod, then to Hod, then to Nexak, etc. But the trouble is with that path, the magical path, it's more dangerous because you can succumb to your an overinflation of ego, or you can get too involved in the demonic aspect of it and then get greedy essentially. So the seven sins are, you get tested more as a magician essentially, you know, you get tempted more. So that's the way I see it. So going back to your initial question, Steve, when I was talking about the Goetia, the Goetic spirits, they're called demons, but really that word's a misnomer because daemon was a word in Greek that meant just spirit. So I see demons as non-angelic spirits. So, and that's really it. So it's a spirit that hasn't, it's a spirit that is just further away from God than an angel, essentially. But that doesn't mean it's malevolent necessarily.
right?
Now you can come across malevolent spirits, but
somebody that would fit into somebody that wants to live the so-called quote unquote Luciferian lifestyle, meaning that they are attached to the touch, taste, the senses of this world, and they'd rather revel in it than be above it, right?
Well, yeah, they get pulled into the they get pulled into the wealth of the world and
yes.
that which is transitory. I mean, there's a spirit in the Goetia. I can't remember what number it is or what its name is, but its office is to build a tower and populate it with basically servants, right? So you think of Trump Tower, like it's this tower Donald Trump has built and he's got all his staff working in there from which he does his business operations. Damn, I can't remember the name of that spirit, but and there's another guy, I forget his name. I can't remember his name, but people use this spirit in order to basically become a successful entrepreneur, you know. And that's really the difference. But I mean, the difference between the entrepreneurs that succeed and the ones that fail is that the ones that succeed are much more involved in the occult.
Yeah, so like the family, like the Rothschilds of the world, let's say, or the ones that have islands named after them off the Antarctica, they
Right.
could come to the conclusion they want to keep the power and keep their lineage
Well,
the way they
yeah,
are.
I mean, if you want to go down this route of, the men that rule over other men, there's lots of theories out there.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm asking you. Is it, in your opinion, do you think that's tied to that?
oh, what are they practicing the occult? These people?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Of course
Yes.
they are.
Yes.
There's no question about it. Stanley Kubrick tried to communicate this to the world in what was his film with Tom Cruise, Eyes Wide Shut.
Okay.
Have you seen that film?
No, I haven't.
So Tom Cruise is just a doctor, and he ends up meeting a piano player who is going to be performing at one of their elitist mass occult rituals, and he ends up going there and stumbling into this world where he doesn't belong, basically. So yeah, no, there's no doubt. The people in the know utilize all the archetypes to keep their power. So the occult corresponds to Scorpio, which is secrets and things that are hidden, things of a hidden nature. So when the majority of people don't even believe in the occult, like atheistic people that say, oh yeah, this is all bullshit and hocus pocus, they're essentially missing out on a whole archetype of life. So they're never really gonna, if you take out a whole piece, it's like taking a whole piece of someone's being out,
Right.
And when you look at things that correspond to the sign of Scorpio, drugs is one of them, hard drugs, sex, secrets. So if you don't understand the occult, this Scorpio energy will manifest in some kind of other way in your life. And unfortunately, there's the occult is done. The occult is learned by doing. It's not learned by a priori knowledge. You have to do rituals and you have to experiment with things, just like in alchemy. And when things happen and you get the result that you were looking for, you then know that it's real. And also, the longer that goes on, you kind of give up the need to try and prove it to people, because it works because you've done it. Some atheist wants to argue with you that it's all bullshit, and it's like, well, you haven't even done the experiments, so why am I going to bother arguing with you? Essentially, every magician gets to a point where they no longer talk about magic to people who don't practice magic, because there is no point. It's a waste of time. There's no point trying to convince people, so you just learn to get on with it, essentially. Now,
are the number? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go on.
Are the numbers? People have said. I've heard people say that the gematria of certain numbers and words and things of our world, like things are set to take place on a certain date, or is there power in those sort of things? And
I mean,
is it tied to the planetary alignment, the energies in the cosmos? What?
I mean, there's kind of a rabbit hole looking at gematria and trying to connect it to kind of global events that happen that are tied to a powerful deep state and conspiracy theories. My advice, I kind of don't bother looking at that anymore, if I'm honest. I mean, yeah, it could be. I mean, what those London terrorist attacks a few years ago occurred on the 22nd of March. So that's 322. So they're going, 322 Skull and Bones. You can investigate that and you can look into it. But essentially,
where does the banishing ritual fit into all this?
Huh?
Where does the banishing ritual fit into all this? What's that?
Okay, so the banishing ritual, you have typically you can invoke or banish anyone from your life or any planetary power, and also you can banish any of the 5 elements, so earth, fire, air, water, and spirit, which would be the quintessence. So when you start magic, you have to banish. You have more stuff you need to get rid of than that you need to attract. We've got all this crap programming in our brains and all these subconscious programs given to us by parent, teacher, minister, media that don't serve us on our highest purpose, right? And don't assist us in finding the highest truth. So when you start, you have to banish. It's just all about banishing. So when I started practicing magic, I banished the element of earth every day for about 18 months. And what effect did that have on my life? So I was living with my father-in-law and my wife, and my father-in-law was a hoarder. And a result of that is that we now live in a perfectly clean, hoard-free environment. You know, I didn't cure him of his hoarding, but the magic allowed us to actually clean the place up and put all this stuff in storage, you know. So also my anger and my hostility and my short fuse and temperament and proclivity to getting really pissed off easily with my wife, that disappeared. So like the frequency that we argue is like very low now from very high. And you know, also the whole conspiracy thing, I kind of lost interest in looking down the route of conspiracies after doing all this banishing, man. So
No, that it's weird because we say God thrice great. In essence, what you're talking about here is another way to get to the same goal. Like me, I've taken the intellectual, metaphysical, mythical approach to it, where I've messed with the thought patterns in my mind and trying to figure out what reality is in a mythic or a esoteric sense. Where you have taken more of a ritualistic
yes, but prior to that, Steve, I didn't take that path. I only started taking the magical route when I was so fed up of being beaten up by reality. That's when you only get into magic when you're desperate and you have nothing else to turn to. And that's what I did because my life sucked. You know, they call it the Negredo stage in alchemy, which is the blackening, which is one searches for truth and bad shit happens. I mean,
that's the dark night of the soul, right?
Dark night of the soul, bullshit. More like dark decade of the soul in reality, you know.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't last for one night, it lasts for years. So right. you know this came, you know, excessive hard drug use was a problem. Basically teetering on the edge of insanity as well. You know, all these things like really like affected me badly throughout my 20s. And you know, and then I started to understand mysticism a bit better reading. I started off with Bill Donahue, kind of helped. And then I was reading Walter Russell and Jacob Boehme. And these were like, you know, the real mystics. And then I found Phil Langdon's stuff. And his stuff explained it in terms of modern physics. And I was like, I understand all this stuff now. I understand how this is all pieced together. And then,
isn't it crazy how you just get the one piece of the puzzle and it all starts making sense?
Well, this is the thing. This is what it says in the Upanishads, is that you need to learn about Brahma from a teacher who's seen him.
Bingo. People are against that for some reason. People think that I hold Phil up on a pedestal or like I worship him like he's God or something. And I couldn't be further from the truth. I consider him.
He'd just be a teacher, wouldn't he? Really?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, I mean, you know, I used to email Phil a lot, but I haven't emailed him in a long time. I'm guessing that he gets inundated with emails now because he's at about 4,000 subscribers. But yeah, I did Phil, it was the understanding of the pineal light. And that's what Phil brought to the table. And that's when I was like, okay, all this stuff starts to make sense now. This, you know, it's the keystone in the puzzle, really. Bingo. It's the central, you know, well, keystone is really the perfect adjective for it.
It is.
It's the capstone in the mysteries, you know.
Yeah. I
So
came into this whole finding the truth thing. My first question was, why is the cross the biggest symbol of our world? You know, and I knew it wasn't because some guy got nailed to it, you know.
oh, see, well, that's just the literal story again.
Exactly.
You know, it's kind of funny when you hear Christians talk about the blood of Christ as if there's something in the blood that saves them. And while that's actually true, it's not what they think it is. It's funny because all the Christian axioms that they say are actually true, but they're only true symbolically. They're not true literally. And
Exactly.
you know, it's like you just really can't say anything to them. You just have to let them get on with it, you know.
Yeah, that's what makes every path a personal journey or a narrow gate, or you know.
But think about it, Steve. Their programming, especially if they've, you know, had evangelical parents from the age of 4, like this is so deep rooted into their mind, you know. And this is the thing: a lot of people that they grow up Christians, and then inevitably they stop being a Christian and do a 180 to an atheistic kind of modality of thinking. If these particular people try to get into ceremonial magic, it's very difficult for them because of all the Christian program that magic is evil and of the devil and of the occult and you're going to lose your soul, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's what it was is that the church wanted a monopoly on all things miraculous.
Right. Well, they
Well,
wanted,
no, it was.
I totally agree with you, and they wanted the money that comes from the tithe. You
well,
know.
you know, the church was like Silicon Valley is now. They were the high priests that would be the arbiters of morality, and that lasted for a long time. And now Silicon Valley seems to have filled that place in our modern world. So yeah. So I mean, yeah, where are we going with this conversation?
We were
Next
going
thing.
with. I was asking you. You were talking about the how we were talking about how your approach to figuring out or trying
Right.
to rise
Yeah.
above the mayhem of our world is through the ritualistic magician's way approach at it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
a
That's
magician is a magi of the Bible. You know, that's what a
right.
magi
Yeah.
is.
So that's the route that I took. I mean, when I was looking for the truth for many years, I was still, I was like the ultimate armchair magician. So it wasn't that like, oh, I suddenly turned to magic. I built up a lot of a priori intellectual knowledge about magic, but just never applied it. And then when things started to settle down in my life, when I turned 30, I was like, okay, it's time to start this path now. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done, and it's the best decision I've ever made simultaneously because, you know, finding the energy to do a ritual every day when you're tired, having worked all day, and, you know, you got to go and meditate for about 45 minutes, blah, blah, blah. It's difficult. And then keep daily journals, daily dream journals, etc. It's really tough. It's because it's a daily thing you have to do that takes a couple of hours. And if you don't do it and you miss days, you're like, well, it doesn't really affect my life. But the trouble is, once you start ascending through the worlds, you essentially start an irreversible process of self-transformation. So if you were to start this path and then suddenly stop, you'd end up in a worse place than before you started, basically. You think just bad things would just go wrong because, you know, true change and transformation is painstaking. You can't go to like some 1 week seminar with Tony Robbins to change your life and expect that your life's going to change. It's got to be daily, meticulous, and constant, you know. I mean, people spend years in Jungian psychotherapy to try and get rid of all this old stuff and harmonize their lives, you know, and all the aspects within their lives. And there was another point I had, but it just went. So I can't remember what it was.
I do that all the time, man.
This was it. So you also do what's called the middle pillar ritual when you practice Kabbalah. So the middle pillar ritual is designed to basically depolarize your consciousness. So you get less involved with, say, for example, the left versus right paradigm in politics. It's supposed, because a function of depolarizing your consciousness is that you're able to see both sides of the coin and argue for both sides of, whatever it is. And that does that happens, that occurs through practicing the middle pillar ritual daily. It's really weird. These rituals are no joke. You think, you're just some guy wearing robes in your basement, like waving a knife around and stuff, but it does have an effect. And
well, it obviously does, because even the Pope, the Vatican, the cardinals, they all wear ritualistic garb. They have even in the Egyptian hieroglyphs, you see them all carrying ankhs, crooks and flails. They all have these symbolic tenerary, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, they have these magical tools. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few different models of magic. There's the psychological model, which says, oh, you're just basically uploading commands into your subconscious mind. And that's more New Age. And then there's the spiritual model of magic. And I don't mean spiritual as in, self-transformation spiritual. I mean spiritual as in working with actual spirits. And that's the model that I use, the spirit model, because I much rather the thought that elves are affecting my tarot cards rather than I'm moving through an infinite amount of universes. It seems to make more sense to me. Like, for example, I did a ritual where I invoked active spirit, and I didn't banish it after. I just left the portal open. And that night, our recently deceased cat jumped on the bed at night and woke my wife up. And, she woke me up and she said, oh, I just saw, our cat was called Boomer. And she goes, I just saw Boomer on the bed. I felt him jump up and then I saw a shadow. So, you open portals, things can come through and then you need to close them after. So, it's very real. So anyway, what I wanted to do to kind of talk about this further is talk about the Enochian system today and read some of the quotes from the journals of Dr. John Dee. And we can discuss them, because otherwise we're just going to be rambling on for ages, Steve.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my my persona, or my that's the way I go. I ramble on. But yeah, I appreciate you adding some structure to it. And yes.
Okay, so all right, let me find the right page, because there's lots of quotes.
Oh, my phone. I gotta find my phone charger. I'll go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I'll look for it and you get your phone charger.
I'm still here. I'm just trying to find an outlet here. Sorry.
Okay, so I want to talk about this because it's really important, I think. And you there, yeah?
Yep, I'm here.
So there seems to be a gulf in knowledge between magic and mysticism right now. The whole point of magic is to complete the great work, just like that's the point of mysticism. But it seems like there's a deficit in understanding in the magical community at the moment. And the best podcast on magic is a podcast called the Glitch Bottle Podcast, where lots of authors, occult authors and magicians go on there and talk about stuff. And it's supposed to be a channel about magic and mysticism. And I never hear anything about mysticism on there. I only hear stuff about magic. So that was my goal in creating my channel, was to see if I could bridge the gap between magic and mysticism. And this is the way I see of doing that, you know, because it's not just, you know, it's not just people who don't practice the occult that look for truth. People involved in the occult need to understand this as well. And some do, don't get me wrong, but a lot don't. So, you know, so here we are, Steve. All right, so John Dee was to receive a book called the Logar from the angels. The angels instructed him that they were going to deliver this book to him, and it was going to be written in the language of Enochian. Now, this book was going to consist of 49 tables or 49 tablets. The first tablet was going to be reserved for God, and its interpretation was to remain unknown. And then the rest of them were, so they're telling Dee and Kelly about this book that they want them to write. Okay. Now here's the interesting thing. While the angels tell Dee and Kelly about the book, the Logar that they're going to write, they're also telling them about the nature of reality at the same time. Okay. So there's a double meaning to everything they're saying. Okay. Now the book of the 49 tables, the Logar, is synonymous of the Logos. Okay. And I'm going to read through you some things. Okay. So the Holy Book was formally introduced to Dee and Kelly by the Archangel Raphael with these words. So Raphael says to Dee and Kelly this: Behold, behold, yea, let heaven and earth behold, for with this they were created. And it is the voice and speech of him which proceeded from the first, and is the first, whose glorious name be exalted in his own horn of honor. Lo, this is it, and it is truth, whose truth shall endure forever. Okay, so that's from a book called The Five Books of Mystery, page 268. There's two books that are a collection of Dee and Kelly's work. There's one called A True and Faithful Relation, and the other's The Five Books of Mystery, along with the journals of Dr. Dee. So what did you take from that speech from Raphael there, Steve?
It's just talking about the communication from God, that the light of the world is the light that we provide for the world. I mean, it's the seed in the seed of the Bible concept, right?
Well, yeah, it's exactly what he's talking about. So he says, for with this they were created, and it is the voice and speech of him which proceeded from the first, and is the first, whose glorious name be exalted in his own horn of honor. So he's talking about the Logos. That's it, you know. And he goes on to say, and it is truth, whose truth shall endure forever. So the theme there is,
somebody named Troll in our live stream chat just said, it's just a question that I got to pose, because it's said here, just because it's written down doesn't mean it's so. What do you got to say to that?
Well, yeah, but this is the point. This is the point. This is why occultists don't bother answering
Nice.
questions like that.
Right, exactly.
The reason why you could, the whole point of this and me reading this is because the angels are, all they are talking about is the nature of reality. And as you go on through reading these transcripts of John Dee, it's so profound what the angels are saying. And if you interpret it in the same way that you do an anagogical exegesis of the Bible, it completely matches up. You know, it's like it verifies in the fact that it just becomes verifiable if you understand the nature of reality. If you don't understand the nature of reality, then yeah, you could easily go, well, just because it's written down, what makes it true? But so yeah, anyway, that's the
Well, it goes to the whole, for them who have eyes to see, they will see. For them who have ears to hear, they will hear.
Well, you know,
John the lips of wisdom are closed, lest to the ears of understanding.
John Dee, he was famous for saying a quote. He said, "If you don't understand, shut up and learn."
There you go. Right.
So, you know, I'm
guilty of not shutting up and learning too.
But you know, to the guy troll who said that, it's like, look, you know,
I'm not calling him out either. I'm just saying that.
I know. But that's the kind of question, right? When you ask an occultist a question like that, they just I could give him some long answer about why it's true and why it's provable, but it would be a waste of time for both of us, because he can still turn around and go, I don't believe it. The only advice I could say to this guy is experiment and try some chaos magic and see what you get. You know, that's all I'd say. Do some sigil magic, see what happens, see if it works. You know, you got to experiment with this stuff. You can't grasp it from just a priori knowledge. It's a matter of experimentation. So anyway,
or it's not a Cracker Jack prize out of a Cracker Jack box that you're going to be able to use or utilize instantly and get results from. You got to actually put the time in to learn what it is.
Okay. All right. So I'll read another quote here.
Okay.
And this is from the Archangel Uriel. And it says, "This book and holy key, which unlocketh the secrets of God, his determination, as concerning the beginning, present being, and the end of this world, is so reverent and holy that I wonder, I speak in your sense, why it is delivered to those that shall decay. So excellent and great are the mysteries therein contained, above the capacity of man." So he's talking about the Logos. He's calling the Logos a book. And he says it's the holy key which unlocks the secrets of God, as concerning the beginning, the present, and the end of the world. So we know that the Logos is part of the initial cosmogony, and it also deals with the end times upon the enlightenment of a candidate or initiate. Okay, someone who goes through the initiation of the tribulation marks the end of creation and the end times, but it's also the beginning because it's something timeless, right? So I'll read that again, Steve, and listen carefully. So the angel Uriel is telling Dee and Kelly about this book they're going to write called the Logar, and he says this book and holy key, which unlocketh the secrets of God, his determination, as concerning the beginning, present being, and end of this world, is so reverent, holy, that I wonder, and I speak in your sense, why it is delivered to those that shall decay. So excellent and great are the mysteries therein contained, above the capacity of man. So when Phil Langdon says...
I was just going to say that. I know what you're going to say already.
All right, well...
go ahead, say it.
When Phil Langdon says you become an angel when you go through the initiation of the tribulation, this is essentially what Uriel is saying here, because he says, so great are the mysteries therein contained, they're above the capacity of man. And do you understand?
Oh yeah, I totally understand.
So what were you going to say? I think
exactly what you were referring to is, the cyclical nature of our creation You know, I might word it a little different, but the cyclical nature of our creation is incumbent upon the light, which is, you know, it's the whole, it goes right back to the same thing every time, you know,
Yeah.
right?
And also there's a reference to the transience of nature, because he says, you know, I wonder why it is delivered to those that shall decay.
Yeah, the second we
So-
take a breath is the second we're going to die.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we go on. You know, Aaron Leach says here, in other words, all things in creation of time are represented in the Holy Book, which is, I don't know, he's probably talking about the Logar, which is the book dictated to Dean Kelly. But that's true if you look at it from the sense of the Logos. The Logos does contain all things in creation and time within it. So, yeah,
Well,
it's
that
really
is
interesting.
essentially the light of now, of the light of the world, the communication from God, which is the word in which we live. I mean,
Yeah, I tell you, as we go through a few more of these, you'll see exactly what the angels are talking to.
okay.
All they really care about, all they want to talk about is the Logos and the nature of reality and God. Nothing else really interests them. It's kind of funny in a weird way. But so, yeah, Uriel goes on to say, Uriel later returns to this subject, revealing the three types of knowledge contained in the text. And then he says, for it is said before that the book containeth three types of knowledge. 1, the knowledge of God, truly. 2, the number and doing of his angels, perfectly. 3, the beginning and ending of nature, substantially. And this hath answered a great doubt. So, you know, that it, I don't really know what to say to that, because the knowledge of God truly is discerned from the revelation of the initiate. The number and doing of his angels perfectly. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. Maybe Phil Langdon would know. But then he says the beginning and ending of nature substantially, which is substance, you know, the substantial,
The senses of our world, of our existence.
or yeah, it's just referring to how physical reality has an end. It has a beginning and an end.
Mm-hmm. In a
So,
literal
yeah.
and a metaphysical sense, probably.
Right, exactly, yeah. So, going on. So there's this angel called Nalvage, Nalvage, and this angel comes up with the most profound statements that really, really like get me every time I read them. So this one says, later in these journals, an angel by the name of Nalvage offers his own description of the book. So the book is the Logar, which they're going to literally write as dictated from the angels. And you'll see what Nalvage is actually referring to in a double meaning. He says, these tables are to be written, not by man, but by the finger of her, which is mother of virtue, where in the world, to flesh incredible, all creatures and in all kinds are numbered in being and multitude. The measure and proportion of that substance, which is transitory and shall wax old. These things and mysteries are your parts, and your portions sealed, as well by your own knowledge as the fruit of your intercession, the knowledge of God's creatures. So, yeah. So what do you think of that, Steve?
You're gonna have to read it again because I caught the end of it. When
Okay.
you were talking
Okay.
about
So
yeah,
let's go through it. These tables are to be written not by a man, but by the finger of her, which is mother of virtue. Okay. So straight off the bat, he's talking about the divine feminine archetype and the chaos Mary or Sophia.
Yeah, the unmanifest potential of the
Right, the abyss.
Yep.
Because we're all the children of Sophia or Mary, right? So it's not written by man, it is written by the finger of her, which is the mother of virtue. So he straight away talks about the abyss. That's the first thing he says. And he goes on to say, where in the world, to flesh incredible, all creatures and in all kinds are numbered in being a multitude. So the world is not necessarily the planet Earth. When you hear these old texts and scriptures and they talk about the world, it actually means the universe. You know, in Crowley's tarot deck, he calls the last card the universe, where in the Rider-Waite it's called the world. So these two terms are interchangeable. It's easy to think literally, okay, they're talking about the planet that we live on. No, it's the universe. So he says, where in the world to flesh incredible, all creatures and in all kinds are numbered in being and multitude. So he is talking about the division of the waters. He starts off talking about the abyss, which is mother of virtue, and then he talks about the universe within the abyss. So
the cosmos,
the cosmos, wherein all creatures are numbered in being and multitude.
Yeah,
Which is essentially the 7 days of creation,
or the seven hermetic principles, right?
Or the 7 hermetic principles, the 7 traditional planets, the 7 chakras. You know, the seven has a lot of connected correspondences
everywhere.
yeah. So now Vage decides to tell Dee about this book, the Logar that they're going to write, by starting off by talking about the abyss and the separation of the waters and all the creatures within it. Okay, that's what he says. Okay, and then he talks about the transitory nature of matter, the measure and proportion of that substance which is transitory and shall wax old. So just to recapitulate, he talks about the abyss, then the universe, the creatures within the universe, and then the fact that everything in the universe is transitory. And then he goes on to say, these things and mysteries are your parts and portions sealed, as well by your own knowledge as the fruit of your intercession, the knowledge of God's creatures. So really, the fruit of your intercession is to act on behalf of something or someone. So the mysteries are sealed to us and they're revealed as much as we act on behalf of God. So he's talking about union with God, basically.
Right. It's like how somebody could have faith above reason and keep their desire towards God, not even understanding what any of it means, like the Bible stories and whatnot, but not disseminating their beliefs or not, but just knowing that, have faith in God. And it that's how Yvonne explained it. Yvonne Gordon, I don't know if you're familiar with her.
No, yeah, I'm familiar with her. Yeah. So to recap, so he talks about the abyss, the universe, everything within the universe that's transient, and then piety, I guess, and solving the mysteries of the universe from within it. And he's supposed, see, this is my point, and I'll repeat this again. I've said it a few times. There's a double meaning with what the angels are saying here. They're giving literal instructions to Dee and Kelly, and in giving those literal instructions, they just talk about the nature of reality at the same time. It's incredible. And I mean, like, going back to what your buddy Troll said, like, that's kind of beyond the scope of like a human to do. I'm gonna give you I couldn't give someone a literal instruction and at the same time delineate the nature of reality and mean the same thing in a dual meaning. It's really quite profound, if you see what I mean.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. I think it's what when Phil says you won't really understand until you make the union with God.
Yeah,
You won't know how to unify it in your mind until then.
yeah. So yeah, but we can intellectually understand what's being said by the angel here, you
Right.
know.
But I
So
mean, you won't be able to articulate it or comprehend it in the dualistic sense. You know what I mean? I think
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But can you see why I chose to like bring this book to the table
Yeah,
in
I
this
did. I
chat
do,
here?
and I appreciate that because
Yeah.
it's
So
pretty,
we go
pretty
on.
strong.
There's a few more I want to read, and then we
Okay, go
can
ahead.
kind of see what we're going to do after. So there's the angel Uriel, and during one of their sessions with Uriel, the archangel told the two men that the testimony of the holy book heralds the second coming of Christ and will not be reserved for a single nation or people. So, just on that point, before I read it, the idea that groups of people are chosen, like, say, for example, the Black Hebrew Israelites or the Jews in Israel, is just a complete nonsense. Like a royal family, you don't ascend as a group; it's an individual experience, right?
Correct.
Carl
But I
Jung
mean,
said
I'm
this.
sure there's moments in time where it happens in a numer or a high number of people more than it via the cosmic input.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true, Steve. I think it has to happen on an individual basis.
No, I mean like the information.
Oh, what? There's enough information out there, so lots
Yeah,
of people can.
right. That's
No,
what I
I
mean.
get what you're saying. Yeah, I get you
Yeah,
saying.
something like the Dark Ages were the Dark Ages because it was dark and everything was being hidden so they wouldn't be have their heads chopped off or so they could actually keep the flame lit.
It's funny when you think of the Dark Ages, you always think it's nighttime there when you try and envision it in your mind. Well,
Right.
I do anyway. But yeah, so yeah, that just on that side note, Carl Jung. I'm a great exponent of Carl Jung. I absolutely love his work. I thought he was brilliant. Um, Phil said to me that he definitely thought Carl Jung was not illuminated, which I found fascinating.
Yes.
But I was like, shit, if Carl Jung didn't become illuminated, what the bloody hell have I got? You know what I mean? Like, are you
Right.
familiar with Jung's work, Steve?
Yeah, he's a very deep thinker and he's got
Yeah.
many curveballs to throw at your
Yeah.
brain.
He's got a book called Aeon where he just talks about the divine symbology of the fish constantly. Like, there's
Well,
like
because
10 chapters about fish symbology.
and that's
So,
because we are born of the chaotic waters of noon. That's
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's the Dagon principle.
Yep,
So,
everything in the light, born
mm,
of the light, is from the perturbation in the chaos.
yeah. Okay, well, here it gets interesting. This is when the angels talk about the end times. Okay. So Uriel says, yeah, the testament of the holy book heralds the second coming and will not be reserved for a single nation or people. Okay. So he says, the second of the greatest prophecy is this: O ye mortal men, for the first was of himself, that he should come. And this is from him in respect that he will come. Neither are you to speak the words of this testimony in one place or in one people, but that the nations of the world may know that there is a God, which forgetteth not the truth of his promise, nor the safeguard of his chosen, for the greatness of his glory. So, yeah, I mean, so the second of the greatest prophecy is the illumination experience of an individual, right? That's the second coming. So he's talking about that. And it's funny, he says, the second greatest prophecy is this: O ye mortal men. That's what he chooses to describe the second coming, to call men mortal. So there's a reference to mortality. Pardon?
The transient vessel that we are, right?
Yeah. This is the thing. That's a reference to the immortality of those that complete the great work. So the first was of himself, that he should come. So the first of himself is the Logos, right? Made flesh, that he should come. So Christ is going to come again, but he's going to come again in the form of an individual who ascends, not, like the literal story of the Bible would have you think. Because he said, and this is from him in respect that he will come. So it's the Logos is the proof that it's the proof of the beginning, and it's also the proof of the ending, that he should come. You see what I mean?
Yes, it's the mentalism of the Hermetic loop.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah. If you, it's the first kingdom and it's the last kingdom at the same time.
Yes.
Right? In the seven kingdoms of creation. So, or the seven archons, you can call them.
Yep.
It's another word that works.
Or the seven lords of Amenti.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we could find a lot of number 7. I think the number 7 is mentioned like,
it's so many times,
like 735 times in the Bible or something like that. Like they really try and drum home the principle behind the number 7. So yeah. So he goes on, he says, neither are you to speak the words of this testimony in one place or in one people, but that the nations of the whole world may know that there is a God, which forgetteth not the truth of his promise, nor the safeguard of his chosen, for the greatness of his glory. So this book that Dee and Kelly are writing is supposed to be the ultimate scripture that allows everyone in the world to go, oh wow, God is real, basically.
So in your opinion, was John Dee illuminated?
Well, that's kind of hard to answer. I think the fact is, I think his name is Enigma, because John is Ionis, which is Yochanan, which means Yahweh is, I think, does it mean Yahweh is merciful, or which is the salvation aspect of the light. And then his second name is D, which is Delta in Greek, in the Greek alphabet, and Delta is the triangle, which is a allusion to the triune state of God. So it's like John, the light, Yahweh, D, 3. So it's like the light plus 3. Bit like your Steve 3-4 motif you've got going on in your channel name. So, quite possibly. I mean, I really don't know. But I mean, if he kind of created a system to communicate with angels and allow angels to like help you in your life, you'd think that he was. I mean, Jesus, what has a man got to do? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. But I mean, you can invoke magic, right? You practice this stuff. You do the banishing ritual. You do rituals that get you things that or help your life out in a physical sense, or a
I just managed to banish the tweakers that moved in next door after fucking 6 months.
Right.
No, I did right. Just to digress on this story. So my neighbor invites these 2 homeless people to live with him, right? Because he was like lonely and his house is spooky as fuck, and I wouldn't want to stay there by myself. It's like creepy. So he invites these 2 tweakers in, and I'm like, man, what are you doing inviting these people to your house? They're junkies, tweaker. They're on meth and heroin, right?
Mm-hmm.
It turns out in California, if you invite someone into your house, they can claim residency after 3 days. They're no longer a guest and they're a resident. 3 days. And they're not
Legally?
trespassing.
Real?
They have a right to abode. Yeah, or not, yeah. Yeah, 3 days in California. That's the law. So,
is that because there's so many homeless people there?
yeah, man. California's super cool at the homeless. So they moved in, and within like a few weeks, within a couple of months, this guy had people coming and going all the time to pick up drugs. And oh man, it drove me mad. So like I sneaked into the back garden and grabbed a couple of cigarettes that were in the ashtray that they'd been smoking. So I had their DNA, right? So I did a ritual involving Mars and Saturn to get rid of them, and it worked. Like straight after I did the ritual, his wife went and slashed the tires on his motorbike. That's the other thing, man. This fucking motorbike keeps going off in the middle of the night, you know. But it's incidentally, my neighbors moved out as well, so everyone's gone now. It's just an empty trailer now, and it's being sold. So yeah, I mean, it's not cool living next door to tweakers, man. Fuck that. I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't wish that on my own worst enemy, man. It's horrible.
Well, I used to 16 about 6 years ago, but
yeah, but no, that's where you got to use the Saturnian energy to do that kind of work, because it's very heavy and it will get the job done, basically. So
have you looked into the Anunnaki thing? I've got Bia Electric talking about Enlil and Anki and all this in chat, and I tried to explain to them that I think, this is my opinion, and you know, it's just from looking into it that I've come to this opinion, that Anunnaki, if you look up the etymology of the words that are in Anunnaki, you figure out, you know, that it's Skyfather on Earth or Prince on Earth.
Doesn't it like mean fish man born of water or something? So it's big because
my symbol for my channel is this right here.
Yeah, you got the Anu.
That's the Anu right there. And that's, in my opinion, that is what everything is. That's what everything is comprised of. That is the thing that binds the atoms, the molecules, the cells.
So yeah, no, isn't it in a hydrogen atom you have 3 trios of Anus with positive and negative?
Yes.
Yeah, see, when alchemy and occult chemistry go really deep, it's beyond my scope of understanding, really. And apparently that was realized by like yogis meditating and shrinking their consciousness to like an absolutely tiny point where they could observe that. I mean, that's like advanced stuff, man.
I think like, the Anu is actually the black hole, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I think our reality is comprised of in and of itself. That's how our microwave background is our event horizon.
Funny you should mention black holes, because for some reason in the last week, I've been looking at satellite images of cyclones and hurricanes. And if you look at that satellite image of Hurricane Katrina, that was the really bad one, wasn't it? Well, they have loads of bad ones in the southern states all the time. But there's this bit where Katrina goes over Florida, and then it's completely over the Gulf of Mexico, and it forms this like perfect like spiral geometry where it looks exactly like a spiral galaxy. And
my introduction to all of this, how I really got deep into it. Do you know who Danny Wilton is?
No, I don't.
He did this. He figured out he had these 2 pictures of the Orion Nebula and the creation of atom painting sitting next to each other on his desk, and he's an analyst. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden he realized, he said, "Holy cow! You could superimpose the nebula over the creation of atom painting, and it lined up." And then all of a sudden whoa, wait a minute, that's our brain. you know, and he figured
Yeah,
out that,
yeah,
you know, and it superimposes that, and then the Great Pyramid lines up with it. And
yeah.
then, you know, and then I'm like, wow. And then I look into it and then I start figuring it out. And lo and behold, the trapezium open star cluster that's in the middle of the Orion Nebula and the center of the center of the center is in the shape of a cross. The stars are in a form of a cross, and there's 5
Right.
stars.
Yeah.
And the Barnard's loop emanates from there.
That's
and that's
trippy,
a spiral.
man.
That's a Fibonacci spiral.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wow, that's pretty interesting. You'll have to send me some information on that.
That's
So
how
I
I got a bunch of videos on my channel. Right
yeah,
on my,
yeah. No, man, that's cool.
pretty deep. Yeah. And that's how, you know, that's how for me, that's how the out became the in, and the in, you know, can I come in from the out now? That's my favorite saying now.
Yeah, that's fun. You know, it's funny you just mentioned that point now, because you know the whole out there thing in the universe, isn't there? Because doesn't the cosmic web supposed to, if you look at a image of brain cells and brain neurons under an electron microscope and then compare that with an infrared image of the cosmic web, the pattern is exactly the same. Have you seen that, Steve?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It looks just like the brain.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing. I'm really more concerned with, like, on a personal level, with the internal.
That's the beautiful thing about this, is because I want to know the whole picture. You know,
yeah, but that's a Gemini thing, man.
But you know what? That's the beautiful thing about it, is because I think that's what we're here talking about it for, is to give a different perspective. You know, and I wish we were illuminated, you know, quote unquote illuminated, so we could really get into the deeper aspects of it. Yet I think we are here doing what we're doing right now, talking on this podcast to help anybody, spur them on, or, you know, even to help ourselves. And it shows the give and take of what our reality is, that we are one, and there are different ways to the truth, but there is only one truth, because that one truth is everything, and it is love, and it is us, and it's everything.
No, that's hence my my alias is Deus es Veritas. It's exactly why it's called that, for that reason, you know. But you back said, like, you want to know the whole big picture, don't you?
Yeah, that's
you're a Gemini.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, see, that's a fucking Gemini thing, man. Like, Gemini is like the big picture, the bird's eye view over everything, and like zooming into the ittle litty bitty details. That's like Virgo. So like, Gemini is the zoom out, and Virgo's the zoom in. Isn't Phil a Virgo, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, no, I've got the sun in the 6th house of Virgo, even though I'm an Aquarius. So yeah, it's funny because astrology can profoundly affect some people, and some people it affects less than others. It's weird. I don't understand it. I don't understand why.
Trying to get Levette. Do you know who Levette is?
Yeah, Levette is, I don't know. Levette's too, like, everything's a big fucking conspiracy with Levette.
Right.
It kind of does my head in after a while.
She's a beautiful soul, though. She's excellent at.
No, she's excellent. She's excellent, but if you listen to her videos, like on a binge session, I get too overwhelmed by, like, oh yeah, these Freemasons have got you on the wrong fucking cross, and you blah blah blah, and it's us against them, and
she thinks that Egypt or the Egyptian culture hijacked religion, and all of that.
Man, see, this is the thing. All these conspiracy, I just can't be bothered with any of them anymore. I find them a distraction. You're much better off meditating than looking at these conspiracy things. I mean, look, no doubt they are out there, but we're trying to get to the truth of something transient here. So what's the point? We want to get to the truth of something singular. That's a much better way to spend your time.
Well, and what's projected to be at the center of a black hole? A singularity, you know. So that footstool of God, or from which the four rivers flow, is the center of the galaxy, is the center of our heart, is the center of our mind, is the center of the earth, is the center of, you know,
Your
and
brain.
that's it all ties together, and that's why I see it as, you know, that's how I put it all together in my mind. But then as soon as I figured out that, you know, and I don't know what drew me to Phil or drew Phil to me, but I think my even you, I mean, you're giving me more of a understanding on a different level than I had even before this conversation. So,
Yeah.
you know, and it's so appreciated, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no, I appreciate you having me on, man. There was one last quote I wanted to read here from that Angel Nalvage.
Okay, go ahead.
One last one I want to read, and then we can kind of, you know, start to wrap things up and just close it out, or whatever you want to do. I'll read it. So he says, in our doctrine, there is nothing taught but the state of the world. Okay, that's what he opens up with saying. So he says,
say that again.
in our doctrine, there is nothing taught but the state of the world.
Okay.
So in the doctrine, the only thing that is taught is the nature of reality.
And that is the now.
Right. Or, well, let me read the rest of the sentence. In our doctrine, there is nothing taught but the state of the world here and to come, period. So, yeah, you called that, man. You called that. So the prophecies of time.
Me and you have been doing, or you and I have been doing that since we've started talking.
I haven't even noticed, man. Maybe other people have. So
like the Enochian thing the other day.
Oh yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. So I'll go on. The prophecies of time and the knitting up of God, his mysteries, opened from time to time to those that are his sanctified, as testimonies in the creation and operation of his creatures, whereof this doctrine is a part. So he says the prophecies and the knitting up of God and his mysteries are open from time to time. So like a knitting up of God is essentially someone gaining singular definition and giving that singular definition back to God from the reference point of the finite versus the infinite of God. So the prophecies of time and the knitting up of God, his mysteries, open from time to time to those that are his sanctified. So he starts off by talking about we only teach the nature of reality and union with God. And that is the test. And then he goes on to say, as testimonies in the creation and operation of his creatures. So not just the creation of creatures in the universe, but their operation, which is like their fucking purpose, man, which is to complete the great work.
And that's
and
what
it's not
all
just
creation
us.
is process.
Well, yeah, and it's not just us on Earth.
Right.
Like if you look at the trillions of possible planets that are out there with sentient forms of life that are beyond the animal kingdom, this is their purpose as well. Like, I don't know what all these gray aliens are playing at, like picking people off. Like, they're wasting their time, man. They should be meditating instead of gallivanting around the galaxy, but they got it all wrong, Steve.
Right. Well, maybe they're the reincarnated ones that have the money on their planets or whatever.
they got the space cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It's like the guide to the galaxy, man. The answer is the number 42.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, 42 is the symbol of Jupiter in astrology.
What was that now?
The 42 is like the symbol of Jupiter in astrology.
Well, M42 is also the Orion Nebula. You know that, right?
Huh?
Oh, M42 is also the Orion Nebula.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting that.
And words are swords, and swords are words, and it's in Orion's sword that the nebula is in. And all of our ancient cultures or civilizations around our planet have all venerated that spot in the heavens.
Yeah, that's cool, man. All right, like, I'll finish out this quote. So he goes on to say, the prophets in their times were not ignorant by revelation or the good. Sorry, the prophets in their times were not ignorant by revelation of the good will of their creator. The apostles in Christ, his kingdom, were made partakers of the mysteries to come, so that this doctrine is the mysteries of the word of God, sealed from the beginning, now delivered unto man, for that reformation which must be in one unity established unto the end. The fruit of our doctrine is that God should be praised, the very key and entrance into the secret mysteries of God in respect of his determination on earth, bringing with it reward in the end of eternal glory, which is the greatest treasure. I mean, like, you know,
Boom, mic drop.
like he, you know, I find that so profound.
So do I.
That's Now of Age. Now of Age seems to have the best quotes out of all the angels I've found.
Which one? What was the name?
Now of Age.
Now of Age?
Yeah, Nalvage. He's the one that Dee and Kelly communicate with more frequently than the others. And he seems to have the like deepest perspectives, you know. So like he's saying that the very key and entrance to the secret mysteries is piety. So if you want to understand the true nature of reality, impiety won't get you anywhere.
Right.
Like,
having faith above reason will get you everywhere.
But this is the thing, you know, these atheists always quote that they're using logic and reason, but they're not, because the highest form of logic and reason would lead to the understanding of God. For example, like God is the truth because truth is eternal, therefore it's always true.
Well, because it is the truth.
Right. Like, you know,
it's love. You know, after looking at it from every angle, it's everything can be told in this phrase, in my opinion. You know, it's God created evil so he could form the good. And what is the good? The good is love, the good is goodwill, the good is God.
You know, you could I can play devil's advocate with you here, but really it's just, isn't the whole good versus evil thing just a function of polarity? And polarity has to be in operation to allow the physical universe to manifest.
Exactly.
You know?
That's what I mean by that statement in a generic, general sense, you know, because, you know, the evil is not really evil, but evil backwards is live. Devil backwards is lived.
Yeah.
The mirror, you know, the reflection of that's why I think like in front of the Washington Monument, there's a reflecting pond. In front of the Taj Mahal, there's a reflecting pond. You know, around Neek Peen, there's a reflecting pond. There's always a body of water around the mound of creation, you know?
Well, yeah. See, I'm of the theory that the primordial waters of chaos would be infinite. They're like, it's just infinite nothingness. And see, there's this axiom, right? You know, people say nothing lasts forever, right? No thing lasts forever because it has no form, so it's eternal. So nothing truly does last forever.
Right. And what's the opposite? What's the yin to the motion? The stillness, right?
Yeah.
The absolute.
You know, that's funny you bring up the yin. You know, I started using the I Ching divination. And if anyone listening to this has never used the I Ching, I suggest that you get into it. I've used it for about 6 months now. It is spooky how accurate it is. I use yarrow sticks to use it and do a ritual of it, which is kind of a rigmarole that takes about 40 minutes, but you can keep concentrating on the question. the first time I did the I Ching, I said, my question was, how efficacious will the I Ching be for me? And I got all yin lines, hexagram number 2, which is just pure receiving. And like, fuck, man, like, I just left a job, right? I worked this last job I had for about just under 2 months, right? It was just down the road. It was in my field of study. Like, it was decent money. And I was like, you know, I haven't got to commute to work through traffic on the interstate. It's a mile from my house, blah, blah. This job's perfect. And I cast the I Ching, and the I Ching was like, okay, the hexagram I got was the sojourner, right? So I was like, why would this be a sojourn? And then I started working the job. It turns out they have mandatory overtime on Saturdays and also Sundays, which is illegal. And I'm going, I don't want to fucking work weekends. I work hard enough during the week, man. You know?
Right.
So I ended up leaving that job, man, you know? And it was weird because I thought it was going to be a job that would be a kind of long-lasting affair, and it wasn't at all, you know? And if you do not use the I Ching, get into the I Ching. It's easier than tarot. It's easier than, say, geomancy. Geomancy is kind of complicated. I think there was an old Chinese sage said, the only regret I have about using the I Ching is that I didn't use it sooner. Because, like, you know, I looked at acquiring a business, and like I used the I Ching, and the I Ching was like, this is like a corrupt old business. Like, don't fucking try and acquire this business. So I was like, all right, fine. I'm just going to leave it, you know? So it saves you hassle.
How do you spell
going down roads that you shouldn't go down, man?
Can you tell me how to spell the I Ching? People are asking.
I space CHING.
I space CHING.
Yeah.
So what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's just because you were mentioning yin and yang. And
yeah, no, hey, that's excellent, because, you know, recently I've been trying to figure out something to focus my studies on.
Yeah.
You know, other than my way of my ADD way of going about things, because, you know, I need to focus, and I'm thinking that I need to focus on something that can you know, bring me closer to the stillness. And I think
like focus on just pick and stick one subject to study.
Yes,
Not be
yes.
I'm reading this book, then that book, then that book.
Yes.
I understand. That's like Pisces energy though, man. You
Yes.
must have some strong Pisces influence in your horoscope.
I'm always doing a bunch of things. And my dad always said, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none, but I want to be a master of all.
Yeah. Don't think
Not all people. I mean, all information, all knowledge. You know, I wanna achieve, but you know, I've recently I've realized that want for I want to is probably what's holding me back, because I'm not really taking in the we aspect as far as the whole. Because I think if I let my intellectual prowess or my intellectual understanding seep into my ego, it pumps it up, and it adds to the me factor. What do you think about that? Do you think it convolutes it or clouds it in a way?
You say the I factor versus the we factor. You know, you're kind of touching on like collectivism versus individualism. I mean, personally, right, I know it's good to do service to help other people, right? And that's like a great tool in the great work, is to help others. But I mean, I'd say, Steve, just, I don't know. I don't think the I factor is so much like a bad thing. You know, when I wrote a journal, I had to eliminate using the word I from my journal entries, which made it really weird when you can't write in first person.
Right.
So,
When you have to use the term one, or, and have you ever noticed that when you're not using I, you're using one?
yeah, one should.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And
no,
that's
that's an
awesome, man.
interesting
You
point.
just made me realize that, actually.
Yeah. No, that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Pretty profound.
Yeah. Hey, I was going to ask you this. What do you think about the multiverse theory?
I think it's kind of I I don't really adhere to that principle. I think it's everything and nothing at once. It's the in, it's the out. But to be short, I think it's dimensionless. I think it's the light is where we reside. The aha moment, or the pineal light expansion moment, is right now, right here.
What do you mean by the light is where we reside?
The light is where we reside. That moment of that big bang. That's the timeless time. We only have
So
time
there's an
because,
element of ourselves that's in that moment eternally.
yes,
There's a part of ourselves there.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's interesting. I didn't think about it like that. Yeah.
yes, and that's how I'm starting to tie it all together in my understanding, anyway. Is that because right now I got goosebumps. My hair on my face is standing up, and I think this is why all yogis have long hair and long beards, and you know, because that vibration you start feeling when you're talking about this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's resonating with you. But it's the best feeling ever, and that's why I continue to do this, is because I know it's helping. It's helping me, and I'm sure it's helping at least a few others out there. But
Mm.
I think that that pineal light, that aha moment, the reason why there's a cross at the top of every steeple, which is indicative or representation of, the ascension moment, essentially. And I think it's venerated all over because of the simple fact that is where we reside. The
Mm.
cross and the circle combined is the Celtic cross, the circle, the earth, the cross, the earth symbol, all the alchemy symbols for earth and for man. And, it's insane when you just see it all. And it's so hard for me to even convey or articulate what
Yeah.
I
So when you
understand.
say where we reside, are you
Yeah.
talking about the non-physical component of our being?
Yes.
Like, so the mental component.
Well, yeah, and yeah, exactly. Because the mentalism is that moment after we reach our pinnacle, which is,
Yeah.
it's like the path of the sun in the sky. You reach that pinnacle and then you're going down to set. But I mean, when you're at your pinnacle is when good things happen. When it's everything is right overhead. When
Yeah,
you're at
man.
the top of your pyramid, at the
Yeah.
top of the hill. I
Okay.
don't know how else to explain it, but I mean, the it's just, I don't know. It's a feeling that I get. That's why I keep my symbol for my YouTube channel as the Anu, because I switched to the cross, the Chiro cross, for a while, and and I didn't really identify with it. It didn't
Oh, I've got some kind of cross. I've got, I think, the Maltese cross is my symbol.
Yes, and that's why the Templars cross is the Templars cross, is because
Yeah. That symbol's derived from a what's it called? A Star of David. That's, if you keep drawing vertices across the points, that's where that Maltese cross comes from. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Hey, I'm gonna have to cut this short.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no,
I
I've
want to
got.
do this again sometime soon, because
Yeah,
we got so
I
much
got to get
talk
on with
about.
some. I got to tidy up my bloody house now and get on with some chores. So my
Sounds
wife's
good.
waiting to go.
You want to
shop.
do this on a weekly basis, man?
Yeah, I suppose we could, or depending on maybe a weekly or bi-weekly.
Yeah, or we can.
But,
Yeah, we can. I mean, a
definitely at
regular
least once
basis,
a
because I
month.
like talking to you. You got some good.
Yeah. Let's see what the feedback says from YouTube. If they're like, "Oh, this guy's really shit, fuck him."
No,
then
they love you, man.
uh,
And the reason why I know this is because I've had 37 people strong the whole time we've been talking, and it's really, well, I gave them a good heads up this time. Usually I'm doing a live stream like as soon as
yeah.
it comes off my mind, but
Yeah,
They like you. They've been asking where your channel is and everything. So
yeah, my channel. So, well, my channel at the moment is like a void of nothingness. I've got 2 videos on there,
and they're excellent videos, by the way.
well, that's it. I'm trying to go for. I'm trying to go for like quality over quantity, but to the net. I've got videos in the works. I just haven't got round to them. But I'm gonna try and upload one at least every 2 to 3 weeks from now on. So I mean, yeah, I need to like do more. It's just, my life is, it's just taking on something else in life. I'm busy
Oh,
with
right.
work and managing my marriage and doing chores and doing overtime, and I also play the piano as well, so I got to find time to practice. I'm like you, Steve. I'm trying to do a million things at once and getting nothing done.
Right, such is life, right?
But yeah, no, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my very best to upload regular content. But I don't want to be one of these fucking YouTubers that keeps just banging shit out like every day, uploading 5 videos. Just it's not about like at getting as many subscribers so I can I don't care about monetizing anything or anything like that. If people are looking for more techniques of exegesis, that's what I want to teach basically, because there is a technique, but it's kind of like I want my channel to be like, once you've watched 5 or 6 of my videos, you don't need to watch my channel anymore. You can do it yourself. Like,
well, that's a pretty tall order.
Like the myth of the slain god that gives, that's the whole point. I don't want to be like, just giving parts of the information to keep people. I just want to give all the knowledge that I know and how I apply it to understand the scriptures, and then my subscribers can take that and know how to do it themselves. It takes a bit of practice as well. You got to read through some of the scriptures repeatedly, but then there comes a point where you go, okay, yeah, this sentence they're talking about the abyss, this sentence they're talking about the light, this sentence here is about union with God, this sentence here is about the fall, this sentence here is about and it's just these themes repeating over and over and over,
just like the nursery rhymes of our childhood.
And then you start realizing who the characters are. Like Noah is the light. Yep. His 3 sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham, are the 3 pillars of the tree of life. His ark is the universe, basically, which has
us. We are the ark.
Or us, yeah. I mean, really, the ark. The only thing that has 2 of every creature is the universe. So the ark is the universe, So, or for example,
where's the universe born from?
Huh?
Where's the universe born from?
Born from?
Yeah, where's the universe come from?
Oh, what you're talking about? Its very first cycle, cosmic cycle from Big Bang.
Well, in my mind, the universe is the cosmos, is what you're speaking of, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah,
but that's the pineal light itself.
I tell you, man, it's all about reading the origin of the world in the Nag Hammadi text, where they tell Yaldabaoth that, hey, like, I know you think you're God, but an enlightened human came before you, and he gets all
nice.
He gets all pissed off. So yeah,
that's beautiful.
All right, Steve, it's 3 o'clock.
All right, brother.
Let's leave. Well, 3 o'clock in California. Let's leave it there, man. It's been
it's been 2 hours, and hey, man, it's been a hell of a conversation. No pun intended.
Yeah, it has been good. Yeah, I'm interested to see what the feedback is. And yeah, no, thank you for having me on. We'll try and do this a bit more regularly. What I would like to do is to go on with Phil as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll arrange that.
Yeah, I'm sure Phil would be up for that.
Oh yeah, Phil likes you. I've seen some feedback from him about you and on your video, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't emailed him in about 4 months, but I used to send it. I was emailing him maybe every week, every couple of weeks on average with certain questions. But yeah, I need to shoot him an email. And I was actually going to visit him when I went home to England in October, and my jet lag was so bad, and it didn't happen, and I was kind of like, I don't know. But I'll go. I'll hopefully meet him next time I go home. So yeah.
Definitely.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Hey, stay away from the coronas, man. You might get some Lyme disease.
Coronas. Oh, that's very.
How is that? Is that a big deal around where you're living right now?
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest, I don't really care, man. Like
that's how I feel about it too.
Yeah. I mean, well, we've got the military base in San Diego with a quarantine unit. So people on the West Coast that have come back from Asia that were infected have been brought there, but I don't know, man. I don't know if fuck knows.
I think it's all a bunch of hype. You know, I think it's real, but I think you know the hype about it is just for selling clicks and selling advertisement. And,
of course. The media are really doing a lot of damage to our world with their agendas.
Hey, man, we'll end it on that, brother. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right, take care, Steve. See you later, man.
Brother. Bye. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all for joining us. Thank you. I'm going to go through a few names here. Brandy Robinson, Raven Wolf Channel, Anna. Hi, sweetheart. I'm glad you could join us. Martin Connolly. I made you a moderator too, so you're part of the Blue Crew. Thoth Aman, Mr. Menza, Scotty Boy. Who else? Jennifer Romeo, Free Press 666, Gary Baxter, my man. MCF, Michelle, I love you, sweetheart. I'm glad you guys are all we're here, and you know, hopefully. Oh, I want to say hi to Paul from Newcastle. Let's see, I'm going through some more here. Bear with me. Cayman 830. I think I said your name already. Turtle, P Turtle, Cypher 9. All of you. Dominic Spiato. Hopefully I didn't hack your name there. Scotty Boy. All of you. I love you all. And you know what? Live inward, love outward. Live outward as long as it's living and loving and not pushing and shoving. Love, peace, chicken grease. Peace out, y'all.